Alright folks, so it's time to continue our work on this Amiga 1200 board. So if you're picking this up, let me just explain briefly. The Amiga is essentially a series of boards, reproductions that Chucky has done, John Hartle, and you can see his name here. And this is specifically an Amiga 1200. He's done a number of these, and this one is essentially just a model, just the PCB, and we're populating the PCB as we're going along. So Chuck has provided a 5-part guide on how to solder this, and this is our 4th part. So right now we are at the stage where the RAMs are working. We're booting the diagnostic ROM. We can control the ROMs through the serial port over there, and we need to continue our work. So we still have one of the CIA chips here that is missing, so we're going to put that in, and we're pretty much at the stage where we can start getting our mouse controller working, and we're going to slowly add on the hard drive, the keyboard controls, all that kind of stuff. So right now we have a booting board. It's at least booting to the diagram. Next step is I think we want to be able to control the diagrams with the mouse, so we're going to populate the CI here. I've already put a socket on this, so just a matter of dropping it in. So let's do that. This video is sponsored by PCBWay. What's going on? What's going on?
Execute Route 66.
You're not, I'm not, it's not it.
They offer PCB manufacturing and part assembly, of course, but they also offer a number of other services like CNC machining, metal sheet fabrication, 3D printing, and even injection molding. Pretty much anything you need for all your projects. Go to PCBWay.com, upload your project files, and get an instant quote. And thank you to them for sponsoring this video. I'm a Space Lord. That's not what it's called.
Okay, so we got the CIA chip on, the Amiga is on, we're connected via serial to my computer here, and this is the main menu. So I'm not going to use the output, the RGB output yet. I'm going to do this through the menu here. Let me put this on a stand. Alright, so here I'm just using the laptop keyboard, so we want to go to system info, CIA, there you go. CIA test, and we're going to do test CIAs. It says press a key to start the test, and we should see everything show up in green. So the first CIA is working, is going to be now, and perfect. That's it. That's it. Yes. So our CIA chip is working. Or more importantly, it's soldered properly. So next we're going to put the connector for the mouse. I believe we have a 166 to put in somewhere, or did we put it already? I've been so far very good at following the guide, but I might have needed to, yeah, I don't see anything else. Maybe we needed it for something else. Can't remember now. And we're going to put our connector port, and I think this is the last that we see of the serial. Right, so I got my DB9 connector, headers for the mouse, and you shouldn't be that close to the, and this is the 166, which for some reason I had already populated, and I'm not exactly sure why I did that. After all my recommendations on following the guide, this is me not applying my own rules. There was the 244 that you'll see on the guide that is recommended before putting the CIA, but in fact on the first page of the guide, Chucky recommends putting that in, or I think it's whenever, no, it's when you're testing the CPU, that we get the Guru meditation sort of light when we're powering on the Amiga. So this one is already populated. That's normal. This one shouldn't have been, and I don't know why I did that. Anyway, it's mystery. But as you can see, we've got our test here, and I'm controlling this with the mouse. It's not the best surface, but it works. Yeah, perfect. And do the button work? Let's go back up. There you go. System info. Excellent stuff. So we got a mouse working. Next thing, we're going to test the parallel port. So I'm going to put the parallel port is here. We're going to put that in. There's one thing to test the parallel port, and what's needed is a loopback adapter. I don't have one, but we're gonna do our best to sort of MacGyver one, just like I did for my serial cable. I just used those whatever DuPont cables, wires. I'm going to use similar stuff for that. I think that's female though, so I'm going to have to use bits of wire. Anyway, we'll build one and test our parallel port next. All right, so this is our little rig for the parallel port. Always remember the parallel port is a female connector, so pinout comes from one would be on this side on male connectors, but one is on this side on female connectors. So essentially we need to, let me grab something a bit better. We need to connect pin 1 to pin 10, pin 2 and 3 are connected together. 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, and then we've got pin 8 connected to pin 12 and 13, and underneath that there's another smaller jumper connecting pin 11, pin 9, sorry, to pin 11, and then here on pin 14 we put a small diode connected to a 220 ohm resistor. Something similar enough to light it from 5 volt, and that goes into ground. So you got a lot of grounds on the bottom, so we got +5 essentially coming out of here. I think the next 2 pins are something else, but the rest is pretty much ground. So I have it, I think on pin 18 here. So let's plug that in and see if this works. I don't know, so we'll see. All right, let's power this on. Oh yeah, so yeah, there is a light, so we're getting 5 volt. We're booting indeed. Cool. So let's just go to, I'm assuming is port test and parallel port. Oh yeah, and here it actually tells you how to build the loopback adapter. Anyway, I got issues with my, there you go. Perfect. So we're all running fine, and it keeps testing until you tell it to stop testing. You can actually see the RX and lights working. Cool. So from the port test, we can also test other stuff here for our purposes, because we're building it. We already knew that the mouse was working. Same with the serial port, because we were able to actually serial in and out of it. So this is why we're not doing every single test. I mean, this is a wide purpose type of a diagnostic ROM. So here it's handy for building the Amiga, but it's very handy to have. And again, fair play Chucky for putting this together. It's a great piece of software. So now that we know our parallel port and CIA is working, we're gonna, well, normally we would tackle the audio here, but I am still waiting for electrolytic capacitors. Namely, we need those two anyway to even get the audio done. We'll need the audio amp as well. So, but I have that, but I'm going to wait for the capacitors. So essentially we're going to jump to the next part of this, which is the drive, and I'll do the audio after that, once I get the capacitors. So I've put the connector for the hard drive, or the ID card, and I've made myself an image for, I think it's workbench 3.1. That I've tailored. So there's different tutorials online on how to make this. Some of them are on video, some of them are text. I prefer text stuff, although I think Nostalgia Nerd had made a pretty comprehensive and easy to follow one. But I'll link to the, well, if you prefer the video, there's a few mistakes actually in the video and things have changed since he's done it, and I found an up-to-date guide. So I'll link that in the video on how to make yourself a hard drive or a flash card for your Amiga 1200. Anyway, let's connect this and do the test. Okay, so here we need to go to drive tests. Because our hard drive is controlled by Gale, we're going to do the Gale test, and there you go. There's a hard drive detected. Everything seems to be working fine, I believe. Yeah. Cool. Next is the connector for the floppy here and the external one. Headers as well for the lights. So there's on the Amiga 1200 you'll have a little daughter board with the LEDs that indicate floppy and power status, and maybe the drive, I can't remember. Anyway, and those transistors here need to be populated for that as well, so we're going to do that next. Oh, and you'll see here there's a little notch just right here, and that means that little pin shouldn't be connected, so we should have like 3 pins, nothing, and then 1. So we're going to remove one of the pin on the header.
Pourquoi il y a des bonnes gauches là, Noël? À se taper le cul par terre. On va goûter ce fameux pamplemousse. Je pense que là qu'on devrait aller manger les meilleurs gos.
Alright, so we got the daughter board plugged in, and I think what we should see is just the power connector, because we are not booting. There's no activities on the hard drive and there's no activity on the floppy drive. So yeah, there you go. Perfect. Next, we need the keyboard connector and I believe some headers somewhere for the clock port. And after that, we can tackle the PCMCIA connector. For the keyboard connector, I have to chip, because I test fitted it earlier, well, before this video really, but it was going to, because there's a socket here, it was going to be tight on this side, so I just had to chip at the socket. Like barely anything, just one little go with the sharp knife, just so it would actually fit nicely, and it does now. Okay, cool, progress. Okay, I have a connector here for the keyboard done, and I've actually removed the diagnostic ROMs and put in Kickstart ROMs, 3.1 ROMs. I got the image from my other 1200, so I just copied the files. I'm sure it's easy to find online, or you can go to places like Amiga store and get these as well, which is where I got some of the stuff I'm going to use afterwards comes from. Yeah, so I've got the Kickstart ROMs in just to check that it's booting, and look at this. We've a working machine essentially, not fully yet. There's still a lot of stuff to put in. The PCMCIA here and all these buffers, but yeah, it's booting. I'm going to put the hard drive now image that I made a while back, and see if that boots to a workbench. Fingers crossed. There you go. So I can't use this because, well, I'm missing the mouse board, which I didn't actually realize until now. I'm not sure where I get one of those. I'll get on to Chucky about this. Not a big deal for now anyway. It's booting to Workbench, and cool. So this is an image I made a while back, and I used the 1.3 Workbench, 1.3, 1.2, whatever kind of look, because that's why all I had was an Amiga 500 when I was a kid, like a lot of us really. And when I saw the new OSs or the modern OSs, like for machines like the 1200 back then, I didn't like the grey, very sober and very austere sort of look. I much prefer the blue of the original 500 Workbench. So I went for something like that. You can theme it with classic Workbench, and so that's what I did. Quick pause before I continue. This is the point where things get a little bit dangerous, because the temptation to speed through the rest of this process is very high. So when you're at that stage, you know you have a working workbench, working Kickstarter, Kickstart. Just take your time again. Don't be tempted to rush it. I nearly made a mistake here, and soldering the wrong SMDIC 244 instead of 245. So yeah, just be careful. Take your time. We're nearly there, but it's not a reason to speed through things. One thing is this is a little bit finicky. Sometimes it boots, sometimes it doesn't, and I have to move the cable. I think the cable here is dodgy. I've had this for a while. I was going to do something with my Amiga 600 with it. I never did, so I decided to use it for that. But I think it's the ribbon cable that's a bit dodgy. So I'll see if I can find a new one. But under the right proper angle, it does work. You can see the TFMSX here. Cool. This is. Oh my god! I'm so happy. So we still have a good bit of stuff to do. We still have the audio to do, and we have the PCMCIA card to do, and then all the electrolytics to put on. So we're not quite done yet with the motherboard. So we're gonna keep going. One thing to watch out for is the proximity of this socket, which made it really tricky to actually solder this IC. And I spotted that early on, and I was like, I'm gonna do this early on. So just get it over with, so I don't even have to think about it. So I got it soldered, but I have a really fine tip for my soldering iron, so I use that. It works, but yeah, just be careful if you're putting a socket on that. In hindsight, maybe put this one in first, because the socket can actually block this guy. That's a mistake on my part, but it works. So we're gonna put the rest of them, the PCMCIA slot, and we need a transistor here for the reset fix. So yes, indeed, you can get a little PCB for the mouse here, or a little kind of cable connector thing. Essentially, you plug this here, and there's a DB9 connector right there. And my plan, after finding out what I was missing, was essentially just to use. I have these cables connectors from my Eurorack stuff. I don't have one that's just 5-pin, but it doesn't really matter. So if I just plug pin 1 here, I've cut the wires that I didn't need, and I was going to just connect this to a mouse port connector, and yeah, be done with it. It would work. That's pretty much what is there anyway originally. But I need to place an order for another cable, because this cable is just too dodgy, unreliable. So I'm going to go to Amiga store, and I like the solution they have, something that actually goes over the PCMCIA port and has a ribbon cable that goes to the extension connection on the 1200. So it allows to have an additional hard drive. Not that I need one hard drive. Like, this is 2 gigabytes. Ideally, you want 4 gigabytes if you want to store a lot of stuff. But I mean, 2 gigabytes is plenty. No, it's not. It's not. I ended up using an 8 gigabyte card instead. My plan was to just have audio stuff and trackers and that kind of stuff, and a few mods. Good few mods. I ended up filling it with demos then, and then games. 8 gigabytes I recommend for your card. The other thing is the external, the secondary card is a bit tricky to get working. I have a pile of CF cards, and only one worked. They have issues with being recognized as slave or master because the way they were built at the time, not all support slave master functionality. So you can be lucky, you can be unlucky. There's no telling which brands have, and within some brands, some do, some don't. So it's potluck, and you could be unlucky and just order a batch of them that doesn't support master slave. So that secondary drive, I probably don't recommend anyway. So that's essentially the plan here. I need to place an order. So I'm gonna place an order for a proper connector board or PCB or whatever they have for that, and I just call it a day. There's no point MacGyvering something if they're super cheap anyway. Okay, let's do that.
Wait a minute, in fact, right there. I'll see if I can upload some of the venue, and he puts a ton of cat, for a period of time. You go towards good on him. As a song, and it's so relevant to 2023, and yet it was 1985. Oh, it was okay. She was 15. Being very
All right, so I got the LM347 in place. There was a few remaining transistors to put in, and the two capacitors. I received parts from Amiga store. I'm still using my old CF thing here, but I got this one that is buffered and that allows you to connect a second card holder to this part of the Amiga. I also got from them this little port, which I wanted to do myself, but it's just much tidier. And it was like, I think it was €2. I needed to order some stuff, so it didn't make much sense me ordering one, making one from scratch. So also I was missing the transistor from the this guy here, but I have this now booting again, and now I can use the mouse and we got sound. Oh man, I haven't heard this tune in ages. Beach volleyball. Was it Ocean published that? So there you go. We now have a fully functional Amiga 1200 motherboard, and this is the end of page 4 of Chucky's guide. And indeed, things are working just fine. Oh my god, I'm so happy. I'm super happy about this. And this is a 2 gigabyte card. I have a 4 here. I might limit myself to 4. I really want it for just music softwares and all that kind of stuff. For games and demos, I have this other one anyway. So we still have 1 page left of the guide, and it's for somewhat optional stuff. So enabling the composite and I think VGA, maybe some NDSC stuff, which I'm not going to do. So we'll do that next. There's also the question of putting this in a case, which I happen to have now. I have a case that Stephen sent me, and some other parts as well from Amiga store to put in. We'll also need to get a keyboard, which I have a keyboard. It's an Amiga 500 keyboard, but I have a membrane from a 1200, and it is possible to hack the 500 keyboard to fit in the 12. So we'll do that all in probably the last video in the series. This it was new for me, so it was I took my time. Chucky sent me a picture of one half completed, or pretty much 3/4 completed, and that took him 40 minutes. So that's so annoying. But the man knows what he's doing. I don't. Anyway, folks, thank you for watching again this one. I will repeat myself: if you take this on, take your time. If you've never done it, follow the guide, and then hopefully at the end you'll get a working Amiga 1200. I'm so happy, and you know what? I'm actually happy that I'm using this theme on this machine, because for me this is the theme I knew, and I'm getting far more nostalgia watching this colors than I would with the grey themed workbench. Anyway, folks, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for part 5, hopefully the last one. We still need to check the if the GoTech works, obviously, on the keyboard. So we're not completely out of the woods, but we've got a working Amiga 1200 motherboard. Oh yeah.